Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Number Vega here to explain the creative digital self-portrait. I hope you had fun with the last project, the words with photography. From what I've seen, you guys did a great job, and I can't wait to see what you come up with for the digital self-portrait. Okay, so here are some examples that I wanted to explain and, just kind of give you the ideas. Anything at all that you come up with for this project, as long as it is expressive and creates a mood or feeling, the work behind it that you come up with in terms of the idea is entirely up to you. Okay, so when we're looking at something like this guy over here on the right hand side, obviously he's full of energy. So when you're taking the picture for your self-portrait, you really want to start thinking about your expression and your pose, the mood and feeling you want to kind of portray in your digital self-portrait. So yes, it has to be of you, a self-portrait. They will not be shared. I will not share them anywhere. So you don't have to worry about that, but it does need to be about yourself, and it needs to have a mood or feeling. Okay, so this guy over here, he's super excited, full of energy. They've chosen as an artist to flip the actual work in Photoshop just to give an even more kind of like bouncing off the wall kind of effect, which is something that you can achieve as well. This one over here is also really fun. Okay, no, it's not fun to look at, but it's fun in the way it was done. They've actually incorporated tree branches, like broken tree branches, which are what makes these broken wings. Okay, so looking at the other ones compared to this one here in the center, yes, this one is much more sad. It's much more expressive looking. Having something like that's black and white, okay, a little bit more dull, okay, not as colorful and exciting. Also his posture, he's facing away from the camera. So you also want to think about that in terms of expression, okay? You don't have to face the camera. You don't have to look excited. You can look a little more sad. You can look super serious, anything at all that you can come up with. But not only is he facing away from the camera in this image, but he's also kind of hunched down, okay? So making it look like he feels kind of like ashamed or sad or maybe lost or lonely. So you can see just how this one single image can really say a lot about a personality, this one here in particular versus this one on the right or any of the other ones, okay? You also don't necessarily have to have just your face in the picture. You can also be working with something like this where it is a silhouette outline. Okay, I'll show you more examples here in a minute. You can also consider putting yourself in a setting, okay? So looking out, finding some really cool images. Maybe you love fishing. Maybe you can't be on your boat right now or something, but you have a picture of yourself. You can Photoshop yourself in that boat. Maybe you would love to go scuba diving someday and you want to be a marine biologist, so you'll Photoshop your face on like a scuba diving outfit. Scuba gear under the water and kind of put together this basically digital collage, if you will, so to speak, as far as that goes, okay? Or you can make them fun and artistic. This one is basically a rendition of a painting off of Roy Lichtenstein, who is a famous painter. So this person in particular must have really liked art, okay? Trying to be creative and expressive, you really want to make sure that you are creating a mood or a feeling, okay? So that's definitely what you want to start thinking about first. Making sure that you're using images or references that resemble your personality, okay? So you don't want to necessarily just put something together just because. You definitely want it to be about your personality, okay? Using color versus black and white, you may want to use that as one of your first things that you're thinking about when creating the actual design of your project. Is black and white going to be something that kind of like tones down the mood itself and gives a serious feel, where color will add a lot of lifelikeliness to your actual picture, okay? You can also really consider making an assemblage here, if you will, or collage based off of several different pictures. In the past, I've had students use this example here on the left as a great source of inspiration. If I were to do this one, for example, as my head up here, I would probably have like a little artist hat on, like a little French artist beret hat or something, maybe some paint on my face or my paint smudge on my cheek. In the middle here, I could be like, maybe holding a suitcase or something because I really love to travel, something like that. And then in the bottom, I've also given the example before of it being really fun, maybe having a picture of my feet, but not just my feet, maybe both my dog's feet. So maybe having just the feet of my dogs, one on each side. Okay, now this guy looks like a snowman. Okay, anyhow, so I have that one. You can also really put together a great kind of assemblage as far as different elements of like your facial features. You can also do something kind of fun like this one over here on the right, where they're looking at, just using using Photoshop is very simple sort of technique of just kind of like erasing that layer with the hand to reveal the mouth, making it look like he has so much energy or he's so passionate and expressive, no matter how much he tries to stop, he just can't. Okay, so that's another great example. This one is also kind of fun. Again, it's colorful. She's kind of portraying herself as being maybe like, you know, kind of like posh, like famous person in like a magazine or like MTV or something like that. So you can use multiple layers, okay? You can use more than one image. So having one you know, example here and one on the other side is also fine. Okay, overlaying your images on top of the other is something you can also consider doing. For example, this one here being able to be done in Photoshop on the right-hand side is a great idea. She's taken an image of herself, she's removed the actual hair, and beneath that layer, even simply with an eraser, but beneath that layer, she's placed New York City. I've given the example in the past of using this as a means of, you know, being a young girl in New York City, trying to maybe like make it, become famous, maybe become a famous singer or something. This is something she's really passionate about. She's obviously up high, kind of looking down on the city, maybe being very hopeful. So you can really kind of like have that feeling. And again, maybe just of a little spark of color here, the seriousness and the dream sort of feel being black and white, but a spark of color just as a sense of hope. Okay, so that's something that you could also create, you know, meaning in this piece as well. Okay, so you should have some sort of symbolism within yours as well. Okay. Also, you can do the silhouette outlet option. I've had students in the past take a picture of themselves from the side. Okay, so that's a silhouette. It's just the side of your face, the outline down from your nose, your mouth, and down your neck and things like that. So basically what they've done in the past is they've selected just their profile and they've gone in and really treated obviously an underneath layer, okay, if you will, collage of everything they like, from words like being creative, being a horse rider, liking to have things grow in the garden, liking art. So they've built up all these layers, and on the top they've just have this very simple sort of outline. Whoops, now her nose is really big of just the idea of incorporating all of her likes in one image. Okay. If you're very artistic and you really like to draw, you truly could consider something like this one on the right. Okay, this one's excellent. They have a photograph of themselves. They've erased, you know, portions of it. They've gone back in and actually kind of drawn, if you will, in Photoshop or even on a paper and juxtapose them together, making it look like he's so immersed in art and drawing that it just takes over him. Okay, if you really like to read, you know, using the page of a book as your background is also an excellent idea. There's truthfully, I want to say with caution a little bit, there's really no wrong answer. So whatever you come up with it's about you and being expressive. Okay, so we've learned all of these wonderful things in Photoshop and now you have a chance to kind of incorporate them. Now, I know we haven't gotten to our digital painting unit yet. That's our last one. Normally I do that one first, but I wanted to give you a little bit of a break, maybe from the computer and going out and taking these images. So I thought this one would be great to do next. Sydney Bowers did this one last year. She's portraying herself here. She has the artistic look, kind of like her hair is like spilling down over, becoming the waterfall over these mountainous sort of areas. So she has gone in and painted by hand for fun because she loves art. I've had students also doing things like, you know, books, like the student here, she really likes to read. So she has all these books surrounding her. She had a picture of herself taken just on a normal stool. She copy pasted herself in Photoshop. And then if you notice, she took the paintbrush and just painted a very thin layer of clouds here around her head, making it appear as if like when she's reading a book, her head is kind of in the clouds, like it takes her to another place. Now I know I'm not explaining every one of these examples, but it's just something that you can consider. Okay, I don't want to make this too long, just a sense of inspiration for you. A student had done this one last year. She went out back by the school actually and sat on a rock. She loved Disney, so she wanted to portray herself as a mermaid, using that rock as a natural prop, and then she went in and used the clone stamper, got rid of her legs, used the actual real like oceans and waves, put some clouds in the background, and so that's kind of how that came about. All right. You can also use props and things like that. Now normally in class I would have really gotten into forced perspective with you, where we use props and I teach you how to use the aperture setting on the camera to get these props to line up and be clear, as well as the subject matter. However, with everything going on, we didn't get to do that this year, but if you want to research a little bit on forced perspective, you know, that's something you could do, or feel free to ask me questions about. Okay. Last year I had someone do this project. This was excellent. She said she decided to make her bedroom really dark. She sat her cell phone here actually within the sheets and turned the flashlight on so that the light was shining up in her face, which made a really great looking image. And then she tilted or turned it pink, if you will, under the hue saturation setting just to give it a warm kind of glow. She photoshopped in here the actual earth so it looks like when she has her phone, like the world's at her fingertips. You can research something, you can communicate with friends, you know, there's nothing you can't do. You can look up recipes, everything. So that's kind of how this came about, and it was a very lovely image using, again, some sort of prop of the light, okay? This is another one that was done in the past. Okay, I've had students do some really excellent projects. This one was very cool. They used their whole body here for their silhouette. Okay, so they posed and then they selected themselves and filled it black. Okay, remember to fill yourself with the silhouette. You would basically use your selection tool, selecting the whole outline of your body, and then just filling it with that alt backspace with whatever color you choose. Okay, another one that you can consider doing, again, like I said, is having props, but don't forget the most thing that you can do, the most fun thing you can do is create an interesting look right off the bat just with your pose, okay? Here's another great example of kind of like a forced perspective or a special sort of manipulation sort of photograph where she's actually sitting on the edge of a pool leaning into the water, but because they've actually turned the image this way, it looks like she's sitting and there's a wall of water behind her, okay? So it's okay to do fun little poses like that and purposely rotate it, okay, so that it looks like you're kind of like standing upside down or something. This one's also really great, okay, again, very striking, very meaningful, black and white, more serious, okay, and I always ask students in the past, what is the meaning they're trying to give here, and I always get the answer, okay, because it's kind of a fun one to look at, is that there's someone feeling like they're there, but they're actually not, like they're feeling invisible. So what they've done is they've taken their photograph in this reflection, erase with the clone stamper tool their actual legs here, and they've been left kind of as a reflection, okay, which is, yes, very sad and sort of deep, but it's also very expressive, okay? So like I said, anything you want to do is fine. Putting yourself in a setting, whether it's realistic or unrealistic, is also something you can consider. This one here in particular, I always give the example of, you know, this room looks, you know, kind of dirty, a little bit dark. It looks like the bedding here is a little dirty. The walls look like they could be stained or something. So maybe this girl is, you know, feeling like she doesn't really like have much, but when she has a book in her hand, okay, it kind of like turns her world upside down. She's able to be taken to a whole nother place and really feel fun and enjoy herself by reading a book, okay? So these are all things you can consider. One thing I do want to mention though, if you are going to do a cropped or a posed photograph, sorry, you do want to think about actually posing in the position that you expect yourself to look in Photoshop, okay? I always have students stand still and take a picture, but they expect themselves to have this kind of like longing sort of look or happy look. You're going to be how you look in the photograph. As silly as that may sound, you need to picture yourself being something like this, imagining that you'd have a dress on, and then again in Photoshop you would actually look and feel as if you had a dress on, okay, for example. Again, it can be anything from a book. You can utilize and manipulate color. You can use those awesome filter galleries. Don't forget the filter gallery setting is really fun to manipulate and give really good meaning to. Okay, so you want to use some things that we talked about in class. I know, like I said, we haven't really gotten a chance to really hit forced perspective, but please feel free to look it up. Making sure that you've cropped nicely. Definitely don't ever forget about how important brightness and contrast can be. Consider the recoloring effect. Free transform tools is basically just when you click Control-T and shrink and move and manipulate things. Like I said, again, the filter gallery is great, and please don't be afraid to build your layers almost like a digital collage, okay? We really are looking for an expressive mood or feeling, okay? So you want a good clear image of yourself, making sure it's not super blurry, making sure you're using cropping, have fun with, you know, your background and making props, whether you use your real background in the photo or change it. Filters, you know, like I keep saying over again, color versus black and white, and again, especially trying to portray your personality, okay? One thing you can do for yourself, since we're not in class, usually I have you guys share these with a partner, is ask someone at your house, you know, hey, like, look at this image of me, what does it make you think or feel, or what do you think I'm trying to say about myself, and see if they can understand, and if not, maybe ask them what would you be able to do to make it better? Should the colors be brighter to feel happier? Should you add something else that you're missing? Maybe you need music notes in the background or something to have that artistic sort of look you're trying to achieve. Okay. I've had students put themselves in video games. I've had students do fun things like walking on the lakes, walking on water, so to speak, because they said they feel like when they're in nature, they're on top of the world, they could do anything. Okay. And then I've also had students go kind of above and beyond with this project, which is also really wonderful. I've had a student last year kind of do one of an egg, which was fantastic. She made all these different poses of herself, kind of coming out of its shell, developing in these beautiful wings, kind of looking thoughtful, and then again over here at the end flying away. So basically creating this really deep, wonderful meaning in a piece by using more than okay. The last one I want to explain here is one of my favorite examples ever. I have this one here, was done a couple years ago of a student who was dreaming to go to New York City. She looks like she has hope here on the horizon. The sun is inside of her eyes here, looking like there's hope for a great future. She has the stars here as the whole world is left ahead of her, okay, again, hence the galaxy. She has New York City embedded here on her shirt, and then just as a leading line back here in terms of perspective, she has this excellent sense of depth by using the Brooklyn Bridge. Okay. Students who love technology can consider options like this, screenshot looking options. Okay, that one was fantastic. Okay, so literally the sky is the limit. Okay, as you can see, there's lots of examples. This one was great. I'll have this one done this year, putting yourself together. He said that as he feels like he does homework and things, all he can think about around him is what he wants to be doing, playing video games, being out in nature, riding his bike. But he said when he feels like he has a camera, basically he can go out and explore and invent. Okay. This one was also fantastic in terms of mood and lighting. Okay, so like I said, anything, the sky is the absolute limit. Please don't be afraid to change and manipulate yourself into anything you would want it to be. These in Photoshop, as long as you've created a really good, clear sense of meaning, you'll be able to actually post these in Teams when you're done. I'm excited to take a look at them. Don't forget our current grading scale being on a 4-3-2-1 basis, 4 being exceptional, above and beyond, 3 being proficient. You have a nice clear photograph, but maybe like your mood or feeling isn't quite as clear. 2, maybe having a photograph, for example, that may be a little bit blurry or something, but you do have a good mood, although it's not quite put together. And then 1 just, being unsuccessful, obviously. So I hope you have fun with this. Please email me if you have any questions, and I will always be here to help. All right, take care, guys.